There is a quiet danger that circles even the strongest minds, a trap that does not come with noise, chaos, or violence, but with something far more deceptive, the illusion that intelligence protects us from our own emotions. We like to tell ourselves we're too aware to fall for certain mistakes, too observant to be manipulated, too rational to be misled by impulse. But that is precisely why the trap works. It blinds us through confidence, it seduces us through pride, it convinces us that because we can understand something, we have already mastered it. Yet mastery and understanding are not the same thing, and this is where even the sharpest minds crumble. Marcus Aurelius warned us that the intellect is not harmed by events, only by our opinions of them. Meaning, we are not defeated by the world, but by our inability to govern ourselves in the face of it. This is the trap. Believing knowledge is enough. We read, we analyze, we explain, but we don't transform. We dissect emotions instead of disciplining them. We rationalize weaknesses instead of confronting them. We interpret our impulses instead of interrupting them. And slowly, silently, our intellect becomes a shield we hide behind. A shield that stops reality from reaching us and stops us from reaching our potential. The historian Pierre Hadot wrote that ancient thinkers saw wisdom not as information, but as a way of life practiced daily. Not something spoken, but something embodied. And this is where smart minds fail. We rely on thought and abandon practice. We tell ourselves, I know why I'm angry, so I'm in control. I know why I procrastinate, so I'm fine. I know they're toxic, so I won't be affected. But the truth is darker. Knowledge without discipline becomes self-deception. Intelligence without restraint becomes blindness. Understanding without action becomes a slow poison. We become trapped in our minds, masters of theory, but prisoners of impulse. The trap tightens every time we mistake recognition for resolution, every time we confuse insight with strength, every time we believe awareness is enough to save us, and so even the smart fall, often harder, because they fall from greater heights. But we do not have to stay trapped. We can choose the harder path, to not only understand ourselves, but to govern ourselves, to not only recognize our emotions, but to command them, to not only see our impulses, but to correct them. Transformation begins when intellect bows to discipline, when knowledge turns into action, when clarity becomes courage. We must become the kind of people who do not simply know what is right, but who practice it in silence, who train the mind the way warriors train their bodies, who understand that freedom is not achieved by thinking, but by mastering what we think. And when we live like this, the trap no longer holds us. We rise above it, not because we are smart, but because we are disciplined, not because we know the path, but because we walk it. Another reason smart people fall for this trap. They overestimate the power of logic and underestimate the power of emotion. There is a silent flaw that hides inside the minds of intelligent people. A belief that logic alone can carry them through life. A belief that emotions are beneath them, that feelings can be dismissed with a simple thought, that clarity in the mind automatically creates clarity in the heart. But reality does not bend to logic, and this is where many sharp minds fracture. They forget that emotion is older, stronger, and faster than reason. Seneca once wrote that the mind is slow to unlearn what it has long indulged, meaning you can understand an emotion, name it, trace its origin, and still be powerless against it, because emotions are habits of the soul, not ideas of the mind. Smart people fall into this trap because they think awareness equals immunity. They dissect their anger, study their fear, explain their jealousy, and assume that the act of explanation itself makes them free. But explanation is not liberation. Analysis is not mastery. Understanding is not control. Emotion is not defeated by being understood. It is defeated by being trained. This is why even the intelligent crumble in moments of pressure. Their logic dissolves, their theories scatter, and the deep, untrained parts of their character rise to the surface. The philosopher Musonius Rufus warned that people admire knowledge but neglect its use, and that neglect is deadly. Because emotion does not respond to intellectual arguments, it responds to discipline, to repetition, to daily inner work, to the quiet strengthening of one's judgment. We fall when we assume thought alone can save us. A person can know humility and still be arrogant. They can understand patience and still be impulsive. They can explain forgiveness and still hold resentment. They can discuss virtue endlessly and never practice it once. Another reason smart people fall for this trap: they mistake activity for progress. There is a subtle trap that even the sharpest minds fall into, a trap so quiet, so deceptively productive that it feels like growth while secretly draining your strength. It is the trap of constant activity, the belief that if you are thinking, moving, planning, analyzing, you must be progressing. But activity is not progress. Movement is not direction. Busyness is not improvement. Epictetus warned that you cannot learn what you think you already know, and this warning strikes deeply here, because smart people often confuse motion with mastery. They stay busy to avoid stillness. They plan to avoid acting. They study to avoid confronting their weaknesses. They fill their days with tasks, information, and noise, so they never have to face the uncomfortable truth that real progress requires discipline, sacrifice, and stillness. In the darkness of their own minds, they mistake the feeling of productivity for actual transformation. They read endlessly, but apply nothing. They think deeply, but do little. They analyze every future possibility, but take no step toward any of them. This is why the Stoic researcher Pierre Hadot wrote that true philosophy is a way of life, not a theory, not a concept, but an embodied discipline. And this is where intelligent minds often fail. They live in their heads instead of in reality. They spend their time preparing for life instead of living it. We convince ourselves that waiting is wisdom, that thinking is progress, that preparing is enough. But preparation becomes a shield that protects us from fear, failure, and discomfort, and therefore protects us from evolution. We sharpen our thoughts while leaving our actions dull. We polish our ideas while letting our habits rot. We strengthen our theories while our character weakens in silence. The truth is harsh, but liberating. You can be endlessly active and remain completely stagnant. Smart people often fall hardest into this trap because their minds are so capable of generating ideas, plans, and strategies that they drown in their own intellect. They confuse motion with meaning. They confuse complexity with wisdom. They confuse intention with discipline. But the world does not honor thought. It honors what is executed. It honors the one who dares, not the one who prepares forever. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." And that is the essence of escaping this trap. You do not become strong by thinking about strength. You do not become disciplined by planning discipline. You do not become wise by discussing wisdom. You become all of these things through repeated action, through discomfort embraced, through consistent practice, through choosing to move forward even when fear whispers otherwise. Because in the end, activity is a distraction, but discipline is transformation. The mind decays when you stop challenging your own beliefs. There is a silent danger that almost nobody talks about. Your intelligence doesn't just fade because of distraction, laziness, or bad habits. It also weakens when you stop questioning the things you believe. Most people live inside a mental bubble they built years ago. They cling to views they picked up from family, school, or society, not because those ideas are true, but because they're comfortable. And comfort, when it comes to thinking, is a trap. The human mind grows sharper every time it is forced to confront uncertainty. Every time it has to examine a belief, test it, and possibly abandon it for something better. That process is uncomfortable, even painful, but it is the very thing that keeps your mind alive. When you avoid this discomfort, something subtle begins to happen. Your opinions harden, your curiosity shrinks, and you start mistaking habit for truth. You stop asking questions like, why do I think this? Is this actually true or just familiar? Am I holding on to this belief because it makes sense or because it feels safe? When those questions disappear, intelligence quietly erodes. A rigid mind cannot learn. A defensive mind cannot grow. A mind that refuses to question itself becomes a prisoner locked in a cell made of its own assumptions. The Stoics knew this well. They believed that a person who cannot challenge their own beliefs is not wise. They are simply trapped by them. True wisdom requires humility, the willingness to admit you might be wrong, the courage to explore unfamiliar ideas, and the strength to update your worldview when reality demands it. This isn't about doubting everything or living in confusion. It's about staying mentally awake. It's about refusing to let your mind fall asleep behind walls of certainty. The moment you stop challenging your own beliefs, you stop evolving. Your intelligence doesn't collapse in one dramatic moment. It fades the way a blade rusts, slowly, quietly, invisibly, until the day you reach for it and realize it no longer cuts. So if you want to stay sharp, question yourself, challenge your ideas, break your mental patterns, not to weaken your identity, but to strengthen your mind. The mind that questions itself is the mind that never stops growing. Emotional mastery is the true measure of intelligence. Intelligence is often measured by how much someone knows, how fast they can solve problems, or how clever they appear to others. But there is a hidden trap that even the smartest people fall into, the belief that knowledge alone is power. True power, the kind that no one can take from you, comes from mastering your emotions. A brilliant mind that is ruled by anger, envy, or fear is like a sword in the hands of a child. Sharp, yes, but dangerous, uncontrolled, and ultimately destructive. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And Marcus Aurelius reminded us that external events are beyond our control, but our judgments, our reactions, our inner composure are ours alone. In other words, emotional mastery is the arena where true intelligence is tested. Highly intelligent people often struggle here because their minds are trained to analyze, but not to restrain. They can dissect a problem, predict outcomes, and manipulate strategies, but when a personal insult, a betrayal, or a failure strikes, they are just as vulnerable as anyone else. Without emotional discipline, intelligence becomes a liability. It fuels overthinking, resentment, and paralysis instead of clarity and action. The key is to cultivate self-control, to observe the stirrings of anger or fear without surrendering to them, to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. This requires constant practice, a quiet rigor in everyday life, and a willingness to confront your own weaknesses without denial. When we learn to master ourselves, our intelligence begins to serve its highest purpose. We think clearly, act decisively, and carry a presence that others cannot manipulate or unsettle. Our mind and spirit move as one, calm, resolute, and unshakable. So remember, no matter how smart we are, if our emotions run wild, we remain prisoners of circumstance. The truly intelligent are not those who merely accumulate knowledge, but those who cultivate inner fortitude, harness their feelings, and act with unwavering control.